8 behaviors that reveal someone dislikes you, even if they're nice. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where someone smiles at you, laughs at your jokes, and acts like everything's fine, but deep down, something just doesn't feel right? It's as if they're hiding something, pretending to like you while subtly giving off a completely different vibe. You may have noticed the way they speak to you feels off, or maybe you can't quite shake the feeling that they're keeping their distance. Something's wrong, but they're doing their best to keep up appearances. And that feeling, that intuition, is telling you one thing. They don't like you, but they're hiding it. Now let's be honest. Not everyone is going to like you, and that's okay. But when someone is trying to disguise their dislike, it becomes a lot more complicated. It's not always obvious, right? In fact, some people are experts at hiding their true feelings. They've mastered the art of wearing a mask, acting polite, even friendly, while their real emotions stay locked behind the surface. You might feel like they're being nice, but deep down, you sense there's something more. The thing is, human behavior is incredibly complex. Emotions often don't align with actions. Someone might say all the right things, but their body language, their tone, or their subtle cues will tell you another story entirely. And when someone dislikes you but is trying to hide it, these subtle, hidden behaviors will often be the first clue that something isn't right. It's not always easy to spot them, but once you're aware, these signs will make a lot more sense. If you're wondering whether someone might be pretending to like you while actually disliking you, here are 8 behaviors to look out for. These signs can help you identify hidden negative feelings that might be masked by politeness or surface-level friendliness. Let's dive in and explore the 8 behaviors that reveal someone's true feelings, even when they're trying to hide it. Sign 1, they keep their distance, physically and emotionally. As social creatures, humans are deeply wired for connection, and one of the most powerful ways we communicate our feelings toward others is through our physical proximity. Psychologically speaking, the way we position ourselves in relation to someone else can reveal a lot about how we feel about them. When we like someone or feel comfortable around them, we instinctively gravitate toward them. Our bodies lean in, we close the distance between us, and we seek eye contact. But when we feel discomfort or dislike, the opposite happens. We create space. This is not just about social etiquette, it's about something much deeper. Proxemics, the study of personal space, reveals that we have different levels of comfort depending on our relationship with a person. The closer the relationship, the closer we allow people into our personal space. If someone is physically keeping their distance from you, it's a clear sign that they don't feel safe, comfortable, or connected to you. They may avoid standing too close, choose to sit further away in a group, or seem to instinctively lean back when you're near. All of these actions are subconsciously designed to create distance and protect their emotional space. Emotionally, distance is even more telling. Humans are highly attuned to emotional cues, and we rely on emotional closeness to build trust and rapport. When someone is emotionally distant, it's a psychological defense mechanism. They're creating boundaries, trying to avoid vulnerability or closeness. You'll notice they engage in surface-level conversations, never diving deeper into personal topics. Their responses are brief, guarded, and often lack the warmth or enthusiasm you would expect from someone who likes you. Psychologically, they're signaling that they don't want to engage with you on a deeper, more intimate level. If someone dislikes you but is pretending to be polite, they'll still follow social norms to avoid confrontation. So, they may smile and nod, but their actions tell a different story. Their body language becomes a silent message, warning you that while their words may be cordial, there is an emotional wall between you. This kind of emotional distance can be one of the most difficult things to pinpoint because it's not aggressive, it's passive. But if you pay attention to how they behave when you're around, you'll start to notice the signs. Sign 2, they give you short, cold responses. In psychology, the concept of verbal distancing plays a huge role in nonverbal communication. When someone dislikes you but is trying to mask it, they will often engage in minimalist responses. Instead of opening up the conversation or engaging on a deeper level, They will respond in a way that keeps things strictly transactional or surface level. This behavior can be analyzed through the lens of cognitive dissonance, the psychological discomfort people experience when their actions conflict with their true feelings. To avoid the dissonance of pretending to like someone while harboring negative feelings, they make the conversation as neutral as possible. If you've ever had a conversation with someone who responds to you with a lot of or okay, or simply nods without elaborating, it's a strong sign of verbal distancing. They're keeping things brief because they don't want to engage emotionally. This is their way of signaling, I'm here, but I'm not invested in this conversation. It's not about being rude, but rather about keeping a polite distance while avoiding deeper engagement. Psychologically, people who dislike you will typically avoid giving you too much personal information. They won't ask about your day or show interest in your feelings because doing so would invite intimacy and closeness. They're trying to avoid any vulnerability or emotional connection. This makes their responses sound colder, more transactional, and far less warm than you might expect from someone who likes you. Moreover, these short responses also serve as a way for them to protect themselves from awkward situations. By keeping answers neutral or vague, they can avoid getting caught in a conversation that requires them to express real emotions or opinions. Their goal is to remain neutral while keeping things civil, but not to engage on a deeper level. This is their way of putting a psychological barrier between the two of you without raising suspicion or creating conflict. Sign 3. They avoid eye contact or display closed body language. One of the most telling signs that someone dislikes you but is trying to hide it is their avoidance of eye contact or the presence of closed body language. Humans are naturally drawn to each other through eye contact because it fosters trust, connection, and warmth. When we like someone, we maintain eye contact to convey interest and engagement. However, if someone is avoiding eye contact or looks distracted when you're speaking, it's a sign of emotional disengagement. Psychologically speaking, eye contact is a powerful indicator of emotional openness. We tend to look at people we like or care about, but when we're uncomfortable or trying to hide our true feelings, we instinctively pull back. This avoidance of eye contact is a subtle yet significant sign that they may not want to engage with you on a deeper level. When people are avoiding looking at you, their body language often follows suit. They might turn their body away, look around the room, or focus on their phone, signaling that they're not fully present in the interaction. In their mind, they're keeping a safe distance, trying to protect themselves from emotional closeness. In addition to avoiding eye contact, you may notice they adopt closed body language. This includes crossing their arms, hunching their shoulders, or physically positioning themselves in a way that keeps you at arm's length. These are defensive postures, and they happen subconsciously when someone feels uncomfortable, threatened, or simply uninterested. This is how the mind communicates discomfort, through the body. Even if they're pretending to be polite, their body is speaking volumes. Sign 4. They don't initiate or maintain conversations. Another key sign that someone dislikes you but is hiding it is their lack of initiative in conversations. People who are genuinely interested in you will find ways to keep the conversation flowing, asking questions, and showing curiosity about your life. But when someone dislikes you, they may only engage in conversations when absolutely necessary. They won't seek you out, they won't make an effort to keep the interaction going, and they'll often give you the sense that they're just going through the motions. Psychologically, this behavior is a result of their emotional disengagement. Humans have an innate drive to connect with others, especially those they like or care about. But when someone dislikes you, their interest in maintaining communication drops significantly. They'll give short, surface-level responses, or they might seem distracted, as if their mind is elsewhere. They won't ask follow-up questions or probe deeper into your life. It's not because they don't have time or don't want to talk. It's because they're simply not interested. When someone dislikes you, they'll often leave conversations feeling incomplete or unfulfilling. You might feel like you've been doing all the talking while they're just nodding along, waiting for the conversation to end. This lack of initiative can be frustrating, but it's a clear sign that they're emotionally checked out. The conversation is more of a formality than an opportunity to connect, and you may find yourself left wondering why they seem so distant, even when you're in the same room. Sign 5. They change the subject quickly or offer minimal engagement. When someone dislikes you but is trying to hide it, one of the clearest signals is the way they handle conversation. Humans are naturally social creatures, and we instinctively engage in discussions that allow us to connect on a personal level. When we care about someone, we ask questions, share experiences, and keep conversations flowing. It's our way of showing interest and building rapport. However, when someone is trying to hide their dislike, they often avoid this deeper engagement. Psychologically, changing the subject is a subtle yet powerful way of protecting themselves from deeper emotional exposure. It's a form of deflection, a way of avoiding topics that might invite vulnerability or emotional connection. For instance, if you're sharing a personal achievement, like a promotion at work or completing a big project, and they quickly steer the conversation to something trivial, they're signaling that they don't want to engage with your success. Their emotional walls are up, and they don't feel comfortable acknowledging your accomplishments. It's almost as if they're trying to diminish the importance of your experience, perhaps out of jealousy, resentment, or simple indifference. On the flip side, if you open up about something difficult, perhaps a struggle, loss, or a challenge you're facing, and they seem disinterested or quickly change the topic, it's another clear sign of emotional disengagement. People who care about you would offer comfort, empathy, or at least a thoughtful response. But when someone dislikes you, they might brush off your struggles or seem detached. This quick redirection of the conversation is a defense mechanism to avoid feeling emotionally compelled to connect with you. In some cases, people don't even realize they're doing this. It's a subconscious response. Their mind is telling them to keep their distance emotionally, and their behavior follows suit. They may not consciously recognize that they're minimizing your experience or avoiding deeper conversation, but the subconscious discomfort with you drives them to shift focus elsewhere. Sign 6. They act indifferently to your achievements or struggles. Another telling sign that someone dislikes you is how they respond to your achievements or struggles. When people genuinely like you, they take joy in your successes and offer support during your difficulties. This is a fundamental part of human bonding. Celebrating someone else's happiness and providing comfort during their challenges creates an emotional connection. But when someone dislikes you, they will often display an indifferent or dismissive attitude toward both your highs and lows. If you share something positive, like a promotion at work, a new personal milestone, or an accomplishment, you might expect congratulations, enthusiasm, or at least an acknowledgement of your success. However, when someone dislikes you, they might act uninterested or even dismissive. They may give you a forced congrats or simply change the subject, as if your success doesn't matter to them. Psychologically, this behavior stems from a lack of emotional investment. People who dislike you aren't motivated to engage in your happiness because, in their mind, you don't deserve their attention or approval. Alternatively, they may be struggling with envy or resentment, and rather than openly admitting these feelings, they mask them by acting indifferent. On the other hand, when you're facing struggles or challenges, someone who genuinely likes you would offer empathy, compassion, and a listening ear. They might say something like, "I'm sorry to hear that. What can I do to help?" But when someone dislikes you, they'll often show emotional detachment. They might not ask how you're doing or offer any form of support. In some cases, they might even downplay your difficulties, making it clear that they don't care enough to provide comfort. They might brush off your issues with comments like, "It'll be fine," or "That's life," signaling that they're not invested in your emotional well-being. Psychologically, this lack of response is tied to emotional distancing. The individual is subconsciously protecting themselves from feeling any emotional attachment to your experiences. Celebrating your successes or empathizing with your struggles would require an emotional investment they're not willing to make, especially if they've already written you off or harbor negative feelings. In both cases, whether they're indifferent to your success or indifferent to your struggles, the emotional disconnect is palpable. Their behavior is a defense mechanism to avoid becoming emotionally involved, either through jealousy or a lack of interest in forming a deeper bond with you. Sign 7. They only interact when absolutely necessary. When someone dislikes you but is trying to hide it, one of the most telling signs is how their interactions with you become sparse and transactional. These interactions typically occur only when required, such as during a work-related task, a family obligation, or an unavoidable social setting. You may notice that outside of these necessary moments, they will go out of their way to avoid spending time with you or engaging in casual conversation. Psychologically, this behavior is rooted in avoidance coping mechanisms. People who feel uncomfortable around you or harbor negative feelings towards you will actively avoid interactions that could expose their true emotions. They may tell themselves that it's just easier to focus on the task at hand or stick to the formalities. Instead of engaging with you on a personal level, they keep their interactions functional, devoid of emotional depth, because any deeper interaction would require them to either acknowledge their feelings or pretend to care. This avoidance serves as a protective barrier. By keeping things impersonal, they can maintain emotional distance while still fulfilling their obligations. At a deeper level, this behavior is often driven by emotional conflict. On one hand, they may feel the social pressure to maintain a civil relationship, whether due to work dynamics, family expectations, or group norms. On the other hand, their negative feelings toward you create an emotional dissonance. They feel torn between being polite, because it's socially expected, and wanting to avoid you at all costs. To resolve this conflict, they subconsciously limit their interactions to the bare minimum, creating a safe, emotionally neutral space for themselves. For example, in a work environment, they may communicate with you only when it's essential, such as discussing project details, deadlines, or tasks that can't be avoided. Any attempt to break the ice with small talk or personal conversation will be met with brief, impersonal responses, and they will quickly turn the conversation back to work-related matters. Outside of work, they will find reasons to avoid social events or gatherings where personal interaction is expected, subtly distancing themselves from you. Sign 8. They speak to you in a condescending or sarcastic tone. Another sign that someone dislikes you but is hiding it is when their tone becomes condescending or sarcastic. This can be one of the most challenging signs to detect because it often masquerades as humor or casual conversation. However, under the surface, it's a clear indication of disdain or resentment. Psychologically, people use sarcasm or condescending language as a defense mechanism. It allows them to express their negative feelings without directly confronting or acknowledging them. Instead of openly expressing dislike, they cloak their contempt in humor, making it seem like they're just being playful or teasing you. But the underlying emotion is one of superiority or dismissal. For example, they might make sarcastic remarks about something you've said, belittle your ideas, or dismiss your achievements with a snide comment. The goal is to put you down subtly while still maintaining the appearance of being friendly or neutral. Their use of sarcasm often stems from a need to feel superior or in control. Psychologically, sarcasm helps create a psychological distance between the two of you by signaling that they don't take you seriously, or they feel justified in mocking or dismissing you. On a deeper level, the use of condescension or sarcasm is often a defense mechanism born out of insecurity or resentment. People may act this way because they feel threatened by you. Perhaps they feel inferior or envious, and the only way they can cope with those feelings is by putting you down in subtle ways. In this case, the sarcasm is a form of emotional projection. They feel negative emotions toward themselves or their situation, and they project those feelings onto you. It's their way of distancing themselves from the vulnerability of genuine connection or confrontation. This behavior may feel confusing at times because it might come across as harmless joking or banter, but deep down, these interactions are designed to undermine or diminish your worth in their eyes. They might say things like, "Oh, wow, that's impressive," in a tone that feels dripping with sarcasm, or, "Well, that's just great," when you share something significant, all while making sure you know they don't really mean it. Final thoughts. Understanding the signs of hidden dislike. Now that we've gone over the 8 key signs that someone dislikes you but is trying to hide it, you might be wondering, why does this matter? Why should we pay attention to these subtle cues, especially when the person isn't outright expressing their true feelings? The truth is, understanding these signs helps us navigate relationships more effectively. It allows us to recognize when we're being manipulated, dismissed, or treated with insincerity. It helps us protect our emotional well-being, set boundaries, and even decide if we want to invest any more energy into that relationship. Remember, we all experience negative emotions from time to time: dislike, frustration, even jealousy. It's part of being human. But when someone hides these emotions behind a mask of politeness, it creates an emotional disconnect. They may smile, they may nod, but their actions tell a different story. And by becoming aware of these hidden signs, you can protect yourself from being misled by false appearances. The key takeaway here is simple: trust your instincts. If you feel that something's off, there's often a reason for it. Your intuition is picking up on cues that your conscious mind might not be able to identify right away. And understanding these psychological cues gives you the clarity to know when to step back, set boundaries, or adjust your approach to the relationship. So the next time you find yourself wondering, is this person really my friend, or are they just pretending to like me? Take a moment to observe their actions. Pay attention to the subtle signs that their behavior is hiding deeper feelings. Trust that your ability to read people is powerful, and by understanding these signs, you'll be better equipped to protect your emotional well-being and navigate your relationships with confidence.